Back in the third round here in the NFL draft, Chris told you the pair of Hickses that went, and Brian Alford, wide receiver, Purdue goes to the Giants, who made a trade with the Eagles in that spot, which involved swapping thirds, and they got a fourth. And then the Indianapolis Colts have taken E.G. Green, so a pair of receivers now for Peyton Manning. More on that in a moment. Peyton and now Green. Jeremiah Trotter. I love this pick by Ray Rhodes. What an upside he has. Linebacker from Stephen F. Austin to Philadelphia. And then out of the vaunted Ivy League, the University of Pennsylvania, Brunswick School, Greenwich, Connecticut. Or maybe Bob Sampson coached them there. And now you're talking home ground here. Mitch Marrow was the last pick as he went to Carolina. But now with our Sprint video teleconferencing, let's bring in no nicer man in pro football as we dial up Ted Marchibroda, the head coach of the Baltimore Ravens. And Ted, you've been through a few of these drafts. Thanks for joining us. Your two picks here, Dwayne Starks in the first round and a speed burner, Pat Johnson second round, really stepped right in to replace two guys who you lost, right? In Derek Alexander, wide receiver, and Antonio Langham. It was definitely, were they draft for need, or are you salivating over these players?
I think it's a little of each, Chris. We knew that we'd have to take a corner and have to take a wide receiver, but we were able to come out with the two guys that we had anticipated that we would get. And we were very fortunate being able to get Starks and also able to get Johnson.
Is there anything brewing with Tyrone Poole? I mean, there's a thought that he might go up to you. That was one of the talks pre-draft. Someone who played very well for Carolina, then did not have a good year last year. Is anything up with that, Ted?
Well, we've talked to them quite a bit prior to the draft, Chris, but it looks like at this particular time it slowed down quite a bit, so we're not quite sure that anything's going to happen at this point.
Teddy, you're reunited with your old quarterback, Jim Harbaugh, with whom you were one Hail Mary away from getting to the Super Bowl. How will that fit right in with your plans with this team this coming season?
Well, we feel that we've added a great deal of leadership, and we've added some experience in Jim and some of the other players that we've picked up through free agency. So we're anxious to get this season started, Chris, because we feel now that we're playing on a level field with everybody else, and we've improved our football team tremendously.
A little excitement down there with the new ballpark and all, huh? I mean, that may give your team an added zest this season.
Well, we're looking forward to it. The stadium is going to be ready for the opener, and it's going to be the state-of-art stadium, and hopefully it'll give us 3 points a ball game.
3 points a ball game last year would have put you in the probably home field advantage for the playoffs, right?
I think so, Chris, and we could certainly use them. There's no doubt about that.
Teddy, thanks for joining us, and it's just a pleasure to see you. Continued good luck here with the draft this weekend.
All right, thank you very much, Chris.
Ted Marchibroda, head coach, Baltimore Ravens, and you heard him say we like the players, and it was a little bit for need. I mean, they had to fill those things.
Well, they're excited. The new stadium, as you mentioned, Chris, in Baltimore, it's almost complete. About another month and a half, it will be complete. So it'll be interesting to see how the Baltimore Ravens step it up this year.
Indianapolis picked up another receiver, as we talked about. They got Pathon, a speed burner, and a return man in the second round. And now here's E.G. Green from Florida State, Mel. I mean, again, we got Peyton Manning. Let's give him guys to throw to.
Well, Jerome Pathon was kind of a late developer. E.G. Green's been a starter since early in his career at Florida State, so very experienced. Not that big, not that fast, but he's got great awareness in terms of route running. You saw that there, the separation from the cornerback. So he maximizes all the skills that he brings to the table, knows how to work a cornerback, and catches everything thrown in his direction. And a plus with E.G. Green, I think in the NFL, is going to be, downfield blocking, the fact that he's a #2 receiver. He'll do anything you ask to help that football team. And he made a lot of circus catches at Florida State, productive on a regular basis. And outside of the fact, in the day and age of the 6'2 wideout, he's not exactly prototype. He certainly doesn't have that blistering 40 time. All this kid does is get open and make big catches.
What about Peyton's place in the huddle where he's going to throw the ball?
Peyton's place is getting pretty full with people that'll sit around his table right now, I can tell you that. You take a look at the wide receivers that have been added, not only through trades. Torrance Small was signed just recently. Of course, Marvin Harrison is the guy who was there last year with 73 catches. Jerome Pathon, you see him coming. E.G. Green, you've got some speed at wide receiver. It's quite obvious. And Dilger, don't forget Ken Dilger and Marcus Pollard at the tight end position. What you've got here is you have got a quarterback that now has receivers around him. Bill Polian has decided he is committing this football draft to offensive firepower. He went and got his quarterback. He wasn't going to leave him go in naked. He's going to give him someplace to go with the football. They lost Sean Dawkins, but they certainly have got a lot of players to fill in the positions. And all of a sudden, Indianapolis right now has filled a lot of voids. Wide receiver is a position where somebody can come into this league and make an impact right away. And that's exactly what I think Indianapolis wants from these two young men.
Well, he's got guys that it'd be interesting. In Indianapolis, we have an Ivy Leaguer that's going. I'm going to tell you, love him, Mel. We're going to talk about him in a moment.
Mitch Marrow, exactly.
Hey, go work today, kid. Thanks.
Slow-crafted Sam Adams. All in due time.
Guys like me don't get much respect. I mean, I'm not even in a cereal box. But, man, I could care less.
Triple Play 99. EA Sports. It's in the game.
I'm Ironhead Hayward. And I challenge you to get cleaner, more refreshed with Zest Deodorant Body Wash.
But Ironhead, I was gonna try it.
Well, quit crying and get to it.
Zest Body Wash. Get cleaner, more refreshed.
Get zestfully clean.
Hey, my name is Rick, but everyone calls me The Rick. Yeah, so this ivy was growing over the wall at Wrigley, so I grabbed it, and now I'm raising it here in my room. As you can see, it's growing more towards Andre Dawson than Kurt Bevacqua. Now, a lot of people would see this as a case of it favoring a right fielder with a 482 lifetime slugging percentage than a utility player with 275 RBIs. But what they don't realize is Bevacqua smashed into the ivy chasing down a fly ball off of Sandberg back in '83. Ivy doesn't forget something like that.
Buongiorno e benvenuto.
Transworld One is our chance to make a really good impression.
A passenger's first thought when they step on board is, wow, all this space just for me.
The food is fabulous.
It's a lovely service. You really have to experience it.
Oh, the seat, it's so comfortable. It embraces you.
We think it's a luxury service at a business class fare.
All this and there's more to come. Transworld One.
From Transworld Airlines.
We want to be your airline. Au revoir et bon voyage.
Back here in New York in the third round, so we talked about E.G. Green and Jeremiah Trotter. I love that pick. Mel. Mitch Marrow to Carolina, who has picked three defensive linemen thus far. Jason Peter, Chuck Wiley, and Mitch Marrow. Jamie German did not play last year. Wide receiver from Miami going to Atlanta. Steve Foley, not the one-time defensive back for the Dolphins, but the defensive end / linebacker from Northeast Louisiana, goes to Cincinnati. And Seattle, who picked up Ricky Waters, go with Amon Green for Nebraska. More on that in a moment. But Mitch Marrow, boy, here's unusual selection.
Well, he's 285 pounds. You watch him at Penn as a junior, and he really dominated the Ivy League, which you would expect from somebody with his physical and athletic ability. This past year, though, he had the mononucleosis, then the turf toe injury. So you really didn't see the kind of domination a lot of people expected because of that factor. But his workouts have been unbelievable. At 285 pounds, he's been running 4.55. He bench presses 225 pounds 40 times. Did a good job at the Senior Bowl as well. So I think this is a good pick. He's versatile. He can play end or tackle. And certainly, I think when you look at Mitch Marrow and the Carolina Panthers, Chuck Wiley coming to that defensive line, Jason Peter coming to that defensive line. So certainly, they've been able to upgrade, which was a major weak link last year. Jamie German, interesting. Knee injury in '96. Then suspended in '97. He worked as a coach on the staff there for Butch Davis, a guy that back in '95 played really well. And that's what you're seeing here. This is against Samari Rolle. Makes the reception, does some damage in the open field. You'll see him also against the Arizona State Sun Devils early on. Damage in the open field again. Very athletic, tall, angular wideout. He was a real good kid. Worked hard this season with the coaching staff, stayed really with the football team and tried to develop his skills, got ready for the workout. 4.43 on grass, individual workout. You see some of that there back in '95, getting deep down the field. You saw the separation there from the cornerback and then taking it to the end zone. So a kid that you're rolling the dice with in the third round, hoping that he reverts back to his old form. Amon Green at Seattle. Of course, you talked about the running back position at Seattle. There'll be a change of pace back there. Ricky Wooders, of course, the main guy. But if you look at the Y, a guy 5'11", 213 who was running 4.25 4.3 prior to the draft, drops to the third round. More of a straight line runner, north-south, not a lot of elusiveness or creativity. Very inexperienced pass receiver as well. Only 5 or 6 games this year, actually didn't even have a reception. Not a great blocker. So a straight line speed guy, maybe a product of that tremendous offensive line at Nebraska. But when you run a 4.25 and you're 213 pounds in the third round as a change of pace type, why not roll the dice? You see him here, this is the straight line ability we talked about. And yeah, when you flash that kind of speed, you just hope in the NFL, if you're Seattle, that you can develop a little bit more creativity. For a back in the National Football League, all of a sudden change his style, very difficult. I think that was the concern that NFL teams had. So instead of being a late first, early second, here he is in the middle of round 3.
You know, it's interesting. You saw the guy hand the ball off to Ahman Green. Of course, it was Scott Frost, who goes as a defensive back in the draft ahead of Ahman Green, who's a 1,000-yard rusher from Nebraska.
And Aaron Taylor, the center guard there, was the Lombardi Award winner, still on the board. So some of those guys, Pollock and those guys that opened some holes for Ahman Green, they're there. Scott Frost, gone early.
We'll be back with more in the third round. We'll visit with Steve Mariucci, coach of the 49ers, when we come back to New York.
For some reason, Americans shake Polaroid photos while they develop. It's completely unnecessary, but it's no less strange than what they do in other countries. The vigorous head rub of China is just one of many methods. Most are physical, but some are purely spiritual. In India, the anticipation can last months, while the Scots, as they often do, turn to their livestock. But regardless of the means, the enjoyment of seeing what develops is indeed universal.
Got a funny youth baseball video? Enter the Blimpie Blooper Contest. Pick up an entry form at your neighborhood Blimpie restaurant.
Beneath the skin exists a framework. Solid in design, resilient, and ready to give you the most exciting performance you may have ever had behind the wheel. Call 1-888-4A-GRAND AM for an even closer look. It's excitement well built. The all-new Grand Am by Pontiac.
Great. That tune-up. These AC Delco parts are about the most dependable you can buy. They should really help improve your performance.
Come on, they're all the same. I'll take them out of this bushel basket.
Okay.
AC Delco. No matter what you drive, if you're not asking for it, you're asking for it.
Your Majesty, we've discovered more wood in a nearby house. Destroy it.
Terminix rules the termites with our advanced termite control systems. Call 1-800-TERMINIX. No bugs, no hassles.
Welcome back to New York. We're almost midway. We are about midway through the third round as we continue and analyzing what's going on at the top of the draft in the first and second round. And now with the Sprint Video Conference, we welcome in the head coach of the NFC West champion San Francisco 49ers, Steve Mariucci. You dial up the number, see it's more way back. There's Mooch. Let's bring in the coach of the 49ers, Steve Mariucci. Mooch, put yourself, first of all, welcome. Second of all, put yourself back 12 months when you're going through this for the first time. You feel like a grizzled veteran now, having seen this once before?
We've been through a lot this year, haven't we, Boomer?
Yeah.
Remember last year we got busy on first day and drafted all of our picks on the first day with Jim Druckenmiller, our quarterback, and Mark Edwards and Greg Clark, and then we were through.
Tell me about R.W. McQuarters. Carmen Policy was on a little bit earlier saying that the offense, the defense, and the special teams coach all jumped up in the air at the same time. He's a unique player, isn't he? Your first-round pick.
You know, he is. He's a special athlete, Chris, and you know, we intend on him playing corner for us. And while we have a couple of starting corners already, he'll be good depth and play in our nickel package. He also is a great punt returner, as you know. He averaged 16.3 yards as a punt returner, kickoff returner. He's played some wide receiver. although we'll have him stay on defense because we feel we've got 3 great wide receivers here. He even lettered in basketball at Oklahoma State, so he's quite an athlete. He's a sensational athlete.
Well, it'll be good for the off-season team in the charity games. And then you pick a center who you know who you coached at college, Jeremy Newberry from Cal.
Jeremy was the highest-rated, on our board, the highest-rated guard or center at the time that we picked. And I was around him for a year, as you know, and he is a smart guy. He's strong, but his greatest asset, I think, Chris, is toughness. He's one of those kind of kids that just plays hard every snap and just likes to bury people. And he's ecstatic about coming here across the bay, right here with the 49ers. He told me it was a dream come true for him.
I want to ask you about a move that you guys made a while ago. Not because he's going to start week 1. Of course he's not. You have Steve Young at quarterback. But I think of all the moves you guys have made, by getting Ty Detmer, Mooch, to back up Steve in case anything goes wrong, and of course here's a guy that started on a team that got to the playoffs, what difference can that make in how you maybe even approach week-by-week game plans and just having Ty around? Can you understate that insurance policy this year?
That's exactly what it is, Chris. He's an insurance policy. Certainly, he's a great number 3. He's extremely capable number 2. And if need be, he can start and win games for you. He understands his position here in that we drafted Jim Druckenmiller last year, and we fully expect him to be another real good quarterback for us. And Jim Druckenmiller has been on a program with Marty Mornhinweg and Greg Knapp this offseason. Like, you can't believe the schedule that he's on. He's developing tremendously, and we expect a lot of him, and we'll see him play a lot in the preseason.
Well, 13-3 last year in year number 1 when Jerry Rice and Steve Young go down in the first game and host the NFC Championship game. Continued success, and best of luck this weekend as the draft continues. Thanks for joining us, Mooch.
Okay, thanks, Boomer.
All right, Steve Mariucci. Boy, you talk about people thinking, wow, boy, he's way over his head, and then what are they going to do? And hard to do much better than Steve Mariucci did last year with what was thrown his way, as we said, in that first game when Jerry Rice and Young down, etc. Last 3 picks, Danon Sidney, cornerback at University of Alabama, Birmingham, goes up the road to Tennessee. Mike Goff, guard, Iowa, goes to the Bengals. And Brad Jackson, linebacker for the Bearcats, who have now had a couple people chosen. They go to Jimmy Johnson in Miami. We'll be back.
Trick out your truck at WheelGo, the place for fiberglass truck caps and covers by ARE, Eagle, and Lear. We have custom fit and custom painted running boards, bug shields, bed liners, retractable bed covers, and more. Recreational vehicles include Scorpion truck campers with a fold-down step and the Coachman Starflight, the camper van of the future. For your hauling needs, there's utility trailers and auto trailers. WheelGo on 159th Street and Parker Road. WheelGo, the place to go for 20 years of sales and service experience.
Keanu Reeves and Al Pacino star in the movie critics are calling a sexy and savvy thriller, The Devil's Advocate, on pay-per-view.
Want to come upstairs and...
Power, seduction.
Look, but don't touch.
Corruption.
Touch, but don't taste.
Keanu Reeves, Al Pacino.
It's my time now.
Everyone has a price.
When do we talk about money?
The box office hit, The Devil's Advocate, on pay-per-view.
ESPN magazine coming out. I really hope they take every precaution to avoid the coveraging situation. Something that's plagued me my entire career. Tiger beat in 93, I sprained my ankle. Model Railroad of 96, I went into a 5-game slump. Cat Fancy almost ended my career. I know one thing, I'm never doing Cat Fancy again.
8,000 mutual funds. And everybody's looking for a winner. But chasing the latest hot fund won't get you anywhere. To pick a mutual fund, find out how they pick their stocks. At Janus, they pick stocks one at a time. They investigate companies like nobody else and invest in the most promising ones. That's how you get there. Janus No-Load Mutual Funds.
Why is America on America Online?
Email is really cool.
We can shop. It puts the whole internet right at my fingertips.
And we've spent over $500 million to more than triple capacity.
You name it. Online, I've got it.
America Online. So easy to use, no wonder it's #1.
With
At AT&T One Rate, it costs $1.35 to make a 9-minute call from New York to L.A. With 10 free to 1, it's $2.51. Surprised? Most calls from home cost less with One Rate. So give us a call today.
Yeah, Ted, let me put you on speaker. Hey, Netboy, tell my agent what you told me.
Well, if you access my Zone Games customized box score that compiles the player's net worth, you'll see that Mr. Salmon's RBIs put him well ahead of Sammy Sosa in fantasy baseball ranking, yet Sosa earns $5 million more.
What? Can you believe that?
Don't worry, Tim. I'll give Bavasi on the blower.
Of course, Ted, it's just a fantasy baseball...
Shut up, Netboy.
Look, I'm your agent, Tim. Let me take care of this. Shut up, Netboy.
Leader in sports. This is ESPN News' special presentation of the NFL Draft.
Welcome back. We are approaching the latter half of the third round of the draft, but the San Diego Chargers, one of the teams that has made the most news today. A couple of trades. One, of course, consummated well before the draft that allowed them to take Ryan Leaf with the #2 selection overall in the first round almost 8 hours ago. Leaf had a couple of dozen members of his family in New York this weekend. They were toasting all week long to #2, to the Bolts, not to the Colts. Ryan very happy to be headed for San Diego. Here was the announcement by the commissioner earlier that made Leaf and the entire clan very happy. With the second choice in the draft, the San Diego Chargers select quarterback, Washington State University, Ryan Leaf. Chargers then gave him a weapon to work with. They trade up their #1 in 2000 to select today 59th overall a wide receiver Michael Ricks out of Stephen F. Austin. So to recap the trade, Arizona, well, they get a lot of bodies in exchange for giving Leaf and the #2 pick overall to San Diego. They get Wadsworth. They get Corey Chavis with that bonus pick from San Diego, a fine corner. They get good value, a guy that many people had rated as a first rounder. Then that other trade. They get Michael Ricks out of Stephen F. Austin, but they have to give up the #1 pick in the year 2000 to Tampa Bay. So that means that San Diego, Bobby Beathard and company will not have first-round picks for the next 2 years. And Stephen F. Austin has been a draft day story so far. Not just Ricks, but then, Mike Godfrey, Jeremiah Trotter, a linebacker, a junior who came out early, who had some knee trouble, becomes the second Stephen F. Austin player taken as Philadelphia snags him. What about Trotter, besides the great name?
Hey, Mike Lombardi and Ray Rhodes have done their homework. The 71st player picked, and Philadelphia fans, you got a first-rounder as a 71st pick. He's 6 foot tall, 265-pound middle linebacker, 4'5", 40. Fourth strongest ever at the Combine, the effort that he gave there lifting weights. And one of the general managers in the NFL told me he is the best workout ever at the Combine by a football player. Now, his father sat down with him in December and told him, he said, I'm 74 years old, I'm going to retire, it's time for you to provide, and he will provide for the Eagles.
It's pretty tough to resist Dad when he says, get out and get a job. You've been in school long enough. Some people feel he might have even been a higher draft pick had he chosen to come back to Stephen F. Austin for his senior year. By the way, 2 Stephen F. Austin players drafted so far, 0 from Notre Dame, 0 from Ohio State. That is a draft day oddity. Now to Sal Palantonio with more on the Philadelphia selection Trotter. Sal?
Well, what's interesting, Chris, is that the Eagles earlier in the month had expressed an interest in Brian Cox. I talked to Ray Rhodes about what he would do at the linebacker position just when he was giving the draft preview, and I asked him, what about Brian Cox? As I heard that privately he was talking him up. He said that if the Bears had released him after June 1st, that they would have an interest in bringing him in. So the drafting of Jeremiah Trotter obviously makes the Brian Cox move probably on the back burner. What's also interesting about the pick is that James Willis, their starting middle linebacker, was signed to a long-term deal next year. But I talked to Ray Rhodes in the draft room. He's really, really excited about this pick. He says he brings toughness and real fierceness to this defense. Chris?
A guy who is motivated. When Dad tells you, get out, son, it's time for you to provide and support, you're going to have a hungry football player when he comes to camp. Jeremiah Trotter headed to Philadelphia. You saw Sal in front of the New England jerseys right there. The Patriots are on the clock as round 3 draft coverage continues in a minute.
And you're our grand prize winner.
Tell them what they've won, Jay.
Okay, Don. You're going to Orlando's best vacation value, Kissimmee St. Cloud. Experience the magic of a Walt Disney World resort, including all new Disney's Animal Kingdom. Visit Universal Studios Florida, SeaWorld, and stay in great accommodations, too. All of Orlando's fun is yours in Kissimmee St. Cloud.
And you can be a winner, too. Call 1-800-354-KISS for your free Kissimmee St. Cloud Visitor's Guide.
Today, a breath of fresh air blew into the NBA when a 19-year-old kid made his debut and stole the show.
He was different. He played with such emotion. It's very simple. He had eyes in the back of his head.
Before he played, you could get seats.
That's why they call him what they do. The great thing about life is you never know what you might want to do next. With American Express cards, it can be anything you like.
When I was growing up, my dad taught me that to make it in sports, you have to use your head as well as your body. He and my mom helped by reading to me and teaching me to read. Start reading to your kids today. They're never too young, and encourage them to read a newspaper every day. Newspapers educate and inform like nothing else. Who knows? By starting early, you could one day help them become king of the hill.
Encourage your child to read a newspaper every day.
Golf's not hard with Tiger Woods and here's new TW.
Today's topic, tee height. I like to tee up my ball just above the club head. Experiment, and you'll find a tee height that's right for you. Beep, beep.
With its unique Wide-Track design, the Wide-Track Grand Prix Sports Sedan provides better cornering and control when you're out for a bite. The Wide-Track Grand Prix by Pontiac. Wider is better.
All right, back in New York. Told you Mike Goff, Iowa, Cincinnati, Brad Jackson to Miami, Ramus McDonald, corner from the Lobos of New Mexico to the Vikings. Chris Floyd, fullback to replace, although they made another deal with Chicago, of course, but remember Sam Gash gone from New England. They draft a fullback from Michigan. Larry Shannon, wide receiver from East Carolina, goes to Jimmy Johnson in Miami. And Greg Spires, defensive end, Florida State, goes to the Patriots, who, of course, that's another busy round for them. First, we'll start with Chris Floyd, and this is a Curtis Martin pick, the third-round pick that they got from the Jets.
Well, you need a lead blocker for Robert Edwards. Of course, you do have Tony Carter coming in as a free agent, a good football player from Chicago. When you look at Chris Howard, their number 8, a lot of his damage was done because of the great lead blocks of Chris Floyd, their number 7. So he did a heck of a job, unselfish player. As a runner, he improved this senior year, showed a little bit more ability in this area. And I think the ability to run inside with power, that's something he's obviously going to have to do as a fullback, not to just be a one-dimensional lead blocker. He can also catch the football for a pure fullback as well. So a nice pick in the third round. I think New England did a real good job. Greg Spires, when you look at the job he did at Florida State, kind of complimenting Andre Wadsworth. Boy, those two bookends. You had Wilson and Boulware the one season, and this year Spires and Wadsworth. The size makes him very difficult to block. He gets leverage. I think offensive tackles, those tall 6'4", 6'4" offensive tackles have trouble with Greg Spires for that reason. He's got a heck of a motor, comes hard. And I think when you look at the productivity and the athleticism, the only reason he's a third rounder is because of the height. And I think that can be a problem for some offensive tackle. So that could actually work to his advantage. We'll have to wait and see. But one thing Greg Spires consistently has done is wreak havoc at the college level in the ACC. And as a third-round pick, productivity at Florida State, that's a good choice.
Wow, so New England, 6 picks, top 3 rounds. So let us go out now, though, from New England for our Sprint video conference out to San Diego. and join the general manager, Bobby Beathard.
Hey, Chris.
Who reports, hey, Bob, how are you?
We're doing all right.
Well, we thought you would be surfing after that Ryan Leaf pick, but I guess you got busy again. By the way, is the plane with Ryan and the Spanos come back yet, or are you still there by yourself?
No, we're still here by ourselves. They're dropping Ryan off in Las Vegas.
I got you.
And then going to go back over tomorrow morning and pick him up to come in here for the press conference.
Bobby, did you really not know what Indianapolis was going to do, or you pretty much knew it was Ryan Leaf? I mean, they tried to keep everyone in the dark as long as possible.
We had a pretty good idea that it was going to be Peyton, and I think we all felt strongly that it was going to be Peyton a week ago when I was talking to Archie and Peyton, and we tried to get Peyton to come out that last week. And when he said they couldn't arrange it to come out, I suspected that this deal had been made. But we didn't know for certain. And Jim Irsay and Dean Spanos talked a couple of times about what was going on, and it looked like they were going to take Peyton, but I think that they wanted it to be all the way up to the end. And now, I wasn't guaranteed it was going to be Peyton, but I would have been surprised had it not been.
Bobby, this is Joe. I'm just curious about the way you project Ryan in. Do you expect him to come in, and as Bill Polian said, he basically said, hey, look, Peyton's coming in here. We're going to throw him in right away. We hope he can be a starter for us right away. Do you have those same plans, you and Kevin, with Ryan out there?
Well, we're still going to look for a veteran at the June 1st date when some people come free. We don't know if one will come free. We think that Craig Wheelahan has made great progress and will go even quicker this offseason. But they're gonna force feed him Ryan and see how far they can take him. But I think the decision about who's going to start that first game, of course, is just going to depend on who's the most ready. If it's Ryan, then he will. But I think they're not going to throw him to the wolves unless they feel he can hold up in there.
Hey, Bobby, when you look at Ryan as the total quarterback package, what becomes the most appealing feature that you noticed in him?
Boy, you know, you look at both of these guys, the size, strength, and the arm, but I think the thing that we like most about Ryan, we also like the most about Peyton. They're great leaders. They have that intangible, that quality that they can take a team to the next level, and I think each one demonstrated that with his college team. So I think that's the emotion that these guys play. I just think it's tremendous. It carries over to the whole team. So it's hard to separate the two in many respects.
Bobby, it's Chris again. You couldn't resist. Another #1 pick gone. They've gone into the next century. For Michael Ricks, you told me about him. He's a unique player, but what do you see in the low second to draft him there that maybe is worth a #1 pick 2 years out? You know, he's a big kid for one.
He's a big, fast kid. He's been very productive. I think Stephen F. Austin has a tremendous program down there. It is 1AA, but they're usually up near the top of the 1AA. And, you know, visiting that school and speaking with their coaches, you see they have great discipline. I think it's a heck of a program. So we weren't concerned about the level of competition with Michael. He and Jeremiah Trotter were two tremendous prospects, we thought. And we haven't had a big receiver like that. And this guy's a good blocker. He's a great young man. I mean, he works hard. So he's what he's best at really is once he gets his hands on the ball. He's been a very outstanding runner with it. He averaged 28 yards a catch.
Real quickly, Bobby, even though you didn't know which exactly quarterback you were going to get, ticket sales up, you know, already knowing that the fans are going to see a fine, young, top-flight rookie quarterback. Has there been excitement even before the draft?
Yeah, I think so. We had a day at the stadium today, and they had a big crowd down there to watch the draft on the Jumbotrons, and there were some ticket sales when we announced the trade a while ago. I don't know the number, but I think that this has certainly brought a lot of interest here to San Diego. Right now, the Padres are still in the spotlight, but we've got to get back into it, and I think with Ryan Leaf, it certainly did some of that.
Well, it's all right to have every tenant at the Big Q have a winning season.
That's right.
No, good luck with Ryan Leaf and with Michael Ricks, and we'll catch you a little bit later tomorrow.
You got it. Thanks a lot.
All right, Bobby, we gave Sid airtime, too. Sid Brooks, the long-time equipment man who always comes to New York and mans the phones. When we return, more of the third round.
Today, education is more than just access to a textbook. It's accessing information through new technologies. That is why your cable company is sponsoring the Teachers in Technology Scholarship. Nominated by their students, teachers have the opportunity to receive a full scholarship for a Master's in Educational Technology from the George Washington University. This scholarship provides a teacher with electronic tools to prepare students and teachers for the challenges of the 21st century. The Teachers in Technology Scholarship, reaffirming cable TV's commitment to education in our community.
The Tiger Woods Tudor chronograph. Tudor.
James & Sons Limited, the smart way to buy fine jewelry. Calumet City, Oak Lawn, and Olympia Fields.
Man.
Hey, Dale. Hey, thanks. Sure, no problem. Hey, it may not be much, but I think the right end is lifting just a little bit in the turns. I'll have it checked out. Thanks. Okay. Saturday, Kelly. Sure will. Be good.
It's not just getting a luxury car. It's getting luxury care. It's an 800 number and thousands of carefree miles. It's about service. Concierge service. Roadside assistance service. And good old-fashioned personal service. It's total luxury care from Acura. The true definition of luxury. Yours.
Has anyone seen my stress management presentation?
Where's my Hamlet essay, I pray?
I just trashed it. If you have an iOmega zip drive, your family can keep track of everything.
I downloaded some military school information. You seen it?
What? So make copies of all your stuff on 100 megabyte zip disks, so nothing gets lost. Almost.
Hello? Anyone see my retainer?
Get an iOmega zip drive today, because it's your stuff.
In soccer, the goal isn't just to score. The goal is to move grown men to tears and to score. Act now and watch over 100 Major League Soccer matches you can't see anywhere else, and see some of the world's best players as they head toward the World Cup in France. Don't miss a beat of the heart-pounding, heart-breaking action. To order MLS ESPN Shootout on pay-per-view, call your cable company or DirecTV at 1-800-GET-SPORTS.
Polaroid presents the NFL Draft Snapshot.
Winning the Heisman Trophy is probably the most probably the happiest day of my life right now.
Oakland's first-round selection, running back, Marcus Allen, USC.
In Marcus Allen's 11 years as a Raider, he was named NFL Rookie of the Year, NFL MVP, Super Bowl MVP, and was selected to 5 Pro Bowls.
He was lured by the chance to join Joe Montana in the Chiefs' backfield and driven from L.A. by the acrimonious relationship with Al Davis.
It's great wanting to play someplace rather than having to play someplace, and I want to be here.
Allen played in more games than any running back in NFL history and holds the NFL record for rushing touchdowns with 123. On April 9th, Marcus Allen retired to pursue a broadcasting career.
Sounds rather trite, but the game has been very, very good to me. The National Football League has been good to me.
Yeah, we wish Marcus luck. Congratulations on a great career, and now he's in our business.
That's right.
CBS show, and we wish him the best. So we had Carl Peterson on a while ago and said, well, you know, we're all right with our backs, even though we lost a couple of guys. Third-round selection for the Chiefs, Rashawn Sheehy, running back Washington, which, by the way, is the 5th Husky to be selected, here in the 3rd round. And we finally had someone from Notre Dame, Joe, Alan Rossum, go to Philadelphia, which evens you with Pennsylvania now. But at any rate, at least we're on board. Here's Sheehy, and is this a... he could develop into a big play. Corey Dillon certainly did.
Well, I'll tell you, he's athletic, he's quick, a 42.5 vertical jump, 4.4 speed. He also has a little bit of power for a halfback, and he has good hands coming out of the backfield. You see the speed with the ball in his hands. Now watch him here, and he can really explode And really, he's off to the races. I think when you look at Rashawn Sheehy, the question was durability. He missed some time early on. Of course, Corey Dillon was the lead back in '96. This year, he had a slight knee injury. November 1st, missed the final 3 games. Then he got back to practice just in time for the Aloha Bowl. And when he got back on the practice field, he kind of ignited the whole roster. Went out and had over 200 yards, MVP of the Aloha Bowl, dominated play against Michigan State. He'll be a good change of pace for a big back like Donnell Bennett.
Well, here are the last 6 picks as we catch up in the 3rd round here. Jamie Duncan, linebacker Vanderbilt, which we'll talk with Tom Jackson about in just a moment, went to Tampa Bay. Here's the Golden Domer, Joe. Allen Rossum, DB to the Eagles. Jonathan Quinn, another quarterback, goes in the 3rd round from Middle Tennessee. Tulane transfer, right, Mel? Goes to Jacksonville. Kevin Williams, cornerback, Oklahoma State, goes to the Jets. Sheehy, we just spoke about, to the Chiefs. Chris Ruhlman, tackle, Texas A&M, goes to San Francisco. So the 49ers have used 2 of their 3 picks on an offensive lineman. Let's go back to Jamie Duncan, the latest pick by Rich McKay, Tony Dungy, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tommy, you've studied him a little bit, linebacker from Vanderbilt. What do you see in him?
Well, I have a spot in my heart for small, short, hard-nosed linebackers, and that's exactly what Jamie Duncan is. He has a tremendous skill inside to be able to shed blocks and get to the football. Now, right here, you're going to see him be able to shoot the gap. He's a quick study in reading where the ball is going. You take another look at him here inside right, you're going to see the same thing. He figures out very quickly where the ball is and takes a direct beat on it. A smaller version of Sam Mills, 6 foot, 244 pounds. The most important thing for an inside linebacker to be able to do, Jack McKernan here, don't hurt me, the center from Rutgers, come out is to get under the pads, be able to lift up and throw the guy off. Now, most people would think, they always talk short linebackers can't play. Well, I remind people all the time that they open the holes this way and not this way. So height is not a prerequisite to playing linebacker.
Of course not, Tom. Once upon a time, he was Tiny Tom Jackson. For 14 years, a stalwart for the Denver Broncos. Tiny Sal Palantonio. Let's go up to New England and get the word from Sal. Sal?
Well, the Philadelphia Eagles have picked a tiny cornerback in Allen Rossum. And Ray Rhodes really doesn't like small corners. As you know, he gave up on Mark McMillan, 5'8", and he's had a terrific second career with Kansas City. But I got off the phone just a few minutes ago with Eagles Vice President Joe Banner. He said that not only will Allen Rossum compete for the right cornerback spot, as you know, Bobby Taylor, also from Notre Dame, Joe, is coming back from a knee injury. So he'll get a little time there to compete there in training camp, but they really like his speed. He's a 2-time All-American sprinter in track for the Fighting Irish, and they like him as a return guy. He'll be a good return guy, Banner thinks, both for punts and kickoffs. Back to you, Boomer, in New York.
All right, Sal, thank you very much. We are steamrolling toward the end of the 3rd round. Jonathan Brown, defensive end, Tennessee, goes to the Packers. Talk about him and the Broncos in a moment.
Got cable? You probably pay too much for too little.
Circuit City and DirecTV can bring you more choices for a guaranteed low price. You'll get over 40 channels for just $19.99 per month with DirecTV Select Choice programming. And any DSS purchase at Circuit City includes a free self-install kit or a professional installation for only $99. If you like sports, enjoy NBA League Pass and NHL Center Ice free. You'll even get a second receiver for only $99 right now at Circuit City.
Woodson, Leaf, and Manning on the NFL Draft.
Listen, fellas, that team is incredible. At this year's draft, all eyes are going to be on them to see what they're going to do.
That back, they just always come ready to play. Their execution is phenomenal.
My rear end's completely numb.
I wouldn't want to go up against it.
My ear is. This thing's killing my ear.
They do have one weak link, though. Merman can't handle a strong side blitz.
I'd smash it.
The NFL Draft, tomorrow on ESPN. More on ESPN2 or get the full skinny on ESPN Radio or ESPN.com.
It took 6 days to create the Earth.
It will take 6 more to destroy it. Get ready for Armageddon. Mortal Kombat Annihilation, rated PG-13.
Now at Orland Video.
A Six Flags Great America Season Pass is packed with fun and busted with value. You get unlimited visits all season long, unlimited rides, unlimited shows, unlimited Six Flags fun, and a huge new area for kids. Plus, special events free and lots more. It's the Midwest's best entertainment value. Buy now and save. Call 847-249-1800 and get your Six Flags Season Pass now. Hurry, don't miss a minute of unlimited fun.
Hockey. You watch till your eyes play hat tricks on you. You even dream hockey.
Wake up! You could win the ESPN2 NHL All-Star Dream Come True presented by MasterCard. You'll go to NHL All-Star Saturday and to the All-Star Game on Sunday. Just tune in to the ESPN2 NHL playoffs. Watch the first game of the night. Call the 800 number with the team that gets the first power play. Wake up! You could win the ESPN2 NHL All-Star Dream Come True presented by MasterCard.
Cool. And welcome back to New York as we're wrapping up the third round. And we told you Jonathan Brown, defensive end, Tennessee, goes to the Packers. But here's a name that I think people know out there. And certainly if you're a pro football fan, you know the last name. And if you're a college football fan, you certainly know what Brian Griese did this past year. We've got our third quarterback going in the third round, guys, which really is an upset. Brian Griese has been chosen by the Denver Broncos, which is an interesting marriage, Mel.
Well, I think it is. I think when you look at the a long-term quarterback, you know, John Elway, how much longer is he going to play? And Brian Griese is a guy, I think, for Mike Shanahan, they're going to look at maybe as the heir apparent. I think this year he really emerged as a real big-time quarterback. You know, he doesn't have the brilliant arm strength, but a guy very efficient, very accurate. And he showed the ability to throw in the move, get the ball down the field. Now, everything needs to be working in sync with Brian Griese. He needs that time, needs to be able to plant those feet and set and fire. But here's a guy with a lot of intangibles, good size for the position, and people, I think, were a little bit more impressed with his arm strength than they thought they would be.
25 years apart, the Griese family, father and son, père et fils, an undefeated season. Of course, Brian this year in the Rose Bowl, culminating in the win over Ryan Leaf in Washington State, as Michigan went 12-0. And, of course, in 1972, 25 years before that, the 17-0, the only perfect season in pro football history. Dad then has longer than son now sideburns, but hard to argue with 29-0, 25 years apart.
I'll tell you, Brian Griese, in my opinion, as I looked at the quarterbacks this year, you look at Ryan Leaf, you look at Peyton Manning, these guys were outstanding. But in my opinion, Brian Leaf had as fine a senior season as any quarterback. As a matter of fact, just leaped up in leaps and bounds from his junior year to his senior year. Really became an accomplished quarterback. I look at Brian Griese as having the ability to be able to play and start for somebody. I also believe that this is a guy who can go out and play 8-10 years. You take a look at what Brian Griese is able to do. His ability to move around, the athletic ability. This will give you an idea of his arm strength, though. Everybody says, how strong is his arm? He sets throws. This is well over a 50-yard pass. Good trajectory, hangs it out so the receiver can go get it. Watch the ball placement. See the position of the defenders? See how he throws the ball to the outside right shoulder of Shaw? That's excellent accuracy. And the timing and delivery on the short route. Quick set, 1, 2, 3, right on the numbers. Those are all qualities that I think he really worked on and managed to do an excellent job with this particular year. I like the opportunity for young Brian Griese to go to a great organization with a terrific football coach in Mike Shanahan and Gary Kubiak to help him out and teach him this game. I think this guy's got a long career.
Yeah, I like exactly where he's going.
Positioned
right.
perfectly.
Yeah, Kubiak is a key name that you mentioned there, although Gary one day will
be a head coach, right?
No question about that. Well, let's go to some guys who certainly zeroed in on Brian all year long for us last season, our college game day crew. Let's go up to Chris Fowler for thoughts on Brian Griese. And 3 quarterbacks in the third round, Chris. We weren't sure we'd have any.
Ironic that Griese drafted a full round, Chris, after Mr. Batch from up the road in Ypsilanti, the Eastern Michigan program, always in the shadow of Michigan, but Charlie Batch going around before Brian Griese. Still, It's a big step for Brian Griese, a guy who, before his senior season that Joe Theismann talked about, all the improvement took place. Brian didn't think he was even a quarterback at Michigan. In his mind, he was 95% sure he was going to go to George Washington as a graduate student and start a long career in business. Now, Mel threw out the label heir apparent to John Elway. That's a pretty strong label for a guy who was almost out of football.
Chris, I wouldn't go that far, but I do like the fit in this situation. When you look at Brian Griese, he's a system quarterback, once again, with a fine pedigree. Brian Griese is the kind of guy that could be successful if he has all the components around him. That's why Denver is a good fit for him. When you got a Terrell Davis, when you got wide receivers that can get open and make plays for you, an offensive line that creates holes and protects you, that's the kind of system he has to be in. So it is a good fit. Yeah, you know, what I like about him, the intangibles. He's a winner. Every time that Michigan got in a big game, he made big plays and found a way to win. And in the National Football League, more games are lost than are won. His interception rate was less than 2%. That tells me one thing, Chris. He knows what to do with the football.
Has to be delighted to be going to an organization like Denver. But again, it's a weird reshuffling of the pecking order in college football when a guy like Jonathan Quinn, a quarterback out of Middle Tennessee State, goes ahead of Brian Griese, ahead of Thad Busby and Ron Paulus and Chris Keldorf, and very productive college quarterbacks. That and to Chris Mortensen. Morton?
Well, Chris, I had the opportunity to speak with Mike Shanahan about Brian Griese this week, and he told me he liked everything about Brian Griese except one thing, and this was interesting. He said Griese ran a 5.1540, and I said, what's that mean with a quarterback? He said, you know what? In the last 15 years, there's only been one quarterback in this league who's had any success when he's ran over 5 seconds in the 40. That was Bernie Kosar. But he said Marino, Kelly, Elway, Montana all ran under 5, and he says escapability is important in this league. He said what defies that time is the fact that he felt Griese did have quick feet. Spoke to another NFL man, and he thinks that Griese really compares to Eric Kramer in that he throws a beautiful spiral pass. Now let's go back to Chris Berman in New York.
All right, Mort, thank you very much. And the day's activity is done, but certainly not to talk about it. Now let's go with our Sprint video conference with the head coach of the New York Football Jets, Bill Parcells, who now joins us. And, you know, even though no first-round pick for you, Coach, certainly very busy working the phones, working up and down. And let me take you away from your team's moves for a moment, just looking at the first round. Can you remember a draft that pretty much went to form like this, or did you see it a different way up top?
No, I agree with you 100%. It really went to form on our board at least. And the other thing that kind of amazed me a little bit was the lack of the trading. And as opposed to last year when there were numerous trades in the first round, lots of clubs making moves, this year it was just kind of pretty much smooth and not much activity.
Well, let me ask about a kid that we really like, Dorian Booth from Washington State, who you moved down in the second round, but we're still able to get. I mean, he has a real upside, doesn't he, Coach?
Well, we hope so. You know, there's certainly an opportunity here on the defensive line. We drafted 3 players last year, and then bringing Dorian this year, we think we made our team a little bit younger in that area, so he's going to have a good opportunity to play.
Bill, it's Joe. Scott Frost, it's an interesting pick for you this high. I mean, you really look at him as being a safety, and you're kind of a player?
Well, Joe, I know that that there was going to be some questions about this guy. We had him in here. We're impressed with him athletically. And our personnel director, Dick Haley, when he was with the Steelers, drafted Carnell Lake. You know, he was a linebacker, made him a safety. I think when you do this, you open yourself to a little bit, but I've always believed that football players are football players, and if a guy can play football, then he can do something for your team to help you, and that's kind of the way we view Scott. I mean, I know he's a football player. It's just kind of coordinating, getting him in the right spot, and trying to make him comfortable and allow him or be patient enough to allow him to make the transition. We know he can handle it mentally. We know he can handle it physically. Now, it's just, can we get him the knowledge and get him the feel for the position?
You talk about patience with Scott Frost. Regarding your quarterback situation, as you go into camp, is it Foley or O'Donnell that is listed as your starter for the Jets as you get ready for the '98 season?
Well, I haven't listed anybody. I would think it would be an open competition. Both of them played pretty well last year, so I think we'd probably go into camp and just go by what we see once we get there.
Curtis Martin, coaches Chris again. Obviously, you're checked out on him. He played injured last year, and a couple injuries that really the Patriots, I think, were keeping quiet. But you know him better than anybody, at least in the pros. How good a back can he be the next couple of years? And is he 100% ready to roll?
Well, he's received 100% clearance to train. He's been training here with us for a couple of weeks. You know, I think he's pretty good, Chris. I mean, these guys, you got to go by what you see, and I think he's pretty good.
I thought so. No, I mean, that assessment doesn't surprise. By the way, you don't see it this way, Coach, but I'm looking at you with the old logo behind you. I know, probably Weeb Eubank was in front of a banner like that once upon a time. I don't think you mind that comparison, do you?
No, I don't. You know, I'm a traditionalist. You know, it's great to have the Jet identity, and I think it's going to be fun for the fans. I know it's been well received in New York.
Yes, no question about that. One last question. You got 8 picks tomorrow, so you're going to be very busy. Did you try it all to get up in the first round, or was that something you kind of probed a little bit and then set back?
I'll tell you exactly what happened. We were at 41. The 3 players we were interested in, we didn't try to get to the first round. The 3 guys that we really were looking at were Bender. I liked Bender. Chavis was another guy I liked. And we would have considered Clement. And they all went right in front of us. We really didn't have enough ammunition, in my mind, to try to move. I think we would have kind of voided the draft for ourselves. And I'm just hoping we can find a couple of Leon Johnsons and John Halls and some guys that Jason Ferguson's down the way like we did last year. And if we can do as well, then with the volume we have, I think we will have improved our team.
Hey, you talk about ammunition. You used it on you and on Curtis Martin, but I think you'll take the way you sit. Thanks for joining us, Coach, and good luck tomorrow.
Okay, fellas.
Coach Bill Parcells will be very, very busy tomorrow. We'll get back here as round 3 has completed.
Mailman, it's been a long time. Whoa! Mailman! You grew hair!
That's right. Couldn't have done it without my Rogaine.
The new Rogaine Extra Strength for Men. It's concentrated. It gets more to the root to grow 45% more hair than the original.
Nice rebound. Try my Rogaine?
The new Rogaine. 45% more hair.
It delivers for me.
Who's looking after your money? You do have goals to reach. Are mutual funds getting you there? How do they see things? At Janus, they look for opportunities one at a time. Not categories, not trends. Just great companies to invest in, no matter what the market's doing. You can find them if you look hard enough. And Janus does. Get there. Janus No-Load Mutual Funds.
Airport before my 8 o'clock flight, maybe we can talk. Otherwise, good over.
Come on. Oh, no. That's battery.
No matter what my customers drive, they depend on AC Delco batteries. They last up to 30% longer.
I'm sure they do. Just give me the generic equivalent.
Okay.
AC Delco. If you're not asking for it, you're asking for it.
Sprint is proud to announce it's hit its mark again.
For 3 years in a row, Sprint has been ranked #1 by J.D. Power & Associates for the highest customer satisfaction among high-volume, long-distance users. To celebrate, we're giving people who sign up for Sprint Sense now our biggest offer yet. Up to 300 minutes free. That's on top of the great Sprint Diamond Minute rate.
Looks like we're going for 4.
Call now. 1-800-PIN-DROP.
Polaroid presents the NFL Draft Snapshot.
Detroit is selecting Reggie Brown, linebacker, Texas A&M.
The 17th overall pick started 26 games his first 2 seasons as a Lion. He finished 97 as Detroit's second leading tackler, but in the season's final game against the Jets, he suffered a career-ending neck injury.
The entire time, he never moved.
Reggie has had a significant injury to the upper portion of his cervical spine.
That puts it all in perspective that This game, at any play, you could be done.
Just a tragic freak accident that this has happened to me.
Just weeks after almost dying on the football field, Reggie Brown was released from a Houston hospital on Friday.
The ESPY goes to Barry Sanders.
Accepting the award for Barry Sanders is teammate and Detroit Lions linebacker, Reggie Brown.
I love the sport of football. I've never been mad at it, and I would love to continue to be around it.
A year before his injury, patients were not normally prescribed the massive doses of steroids that Brown did receive while he was treated there on the playing field, the drugs that saved his life.
Really, I'm doing fine. I'm just trying to enjoy life.
The best news that we have heard this winter and now this spring is that Reggie Brown is progressing ahead of schedule, if you will, and there's no schedule on that. What a moment that was at the ESPYs, and Barry Sanders didn't come. And Reggie was, by the way, that was an ad-lib job by Reggie Brown. He was not supposed to, except for Barry Sanders. Barry couldn't make it, and there he was, and that was great, and we wish him the best in his recovery and his efforts to lead a normal life. Everybody's prayers are certainly with Reggie Brown, a fine young man. Let's go up to Chris Fowler and Mike Godfrey, because the last pick was made in the third round. A compensatory pick for Pittsburgh. Hines Ward, wide receiver from Georgia, goes to Pittsburgh, and there's a little help for Cordell Stewart, guys that Bill Cowher was looking to get somewhere today.
Yeah, Chris, and he might be considered a slash-type player, Hines Ward, although not the physical specimen that Cordell is, Mike. He doesn't have the arm strength or the speed or the strength, but Hines Ward is a guy that at Georgia played a number of positions. We have him listed as a wide receiver. Figure that's where he projects to in the NFL. But Ward, a guy who carried the ball out of the backfield, even played emergency quarterback at times for Georgia in his college career.
Outstanding high school quarterback, was recruited by everybody in America, played receiver and running back, and I put down beside his name a true team player, 4.5 40 speed, and he is going to make the Pittsburgh fans really love him. Here he plays at a quarterback position for Georgia. They brought him in different situations, and to replace the quarterback, moved the quarterback out to wide receiver, and here's his team against Georgia Tech. Special teams ability. Ron Zook, the special teams coach at the Pittsburgh Steelers, is going to love this kid. Again, he gives you great effort, big returns, soft hand. Both his head coaches, Ray Goff, who he played for first, Jim Donnan, love him. Makes the tough catch. Ron Jaworski likes to throw the ball to this kind of receiver. He sells out, makes the tough catch. He plays big in big games, Chris, and he plays with a lot of enthusiasm. You got to like Hines Ward.
Hines Ward makes it 21 out of the first 91 players selected in this first 3 rounds from the Southeastern Conference. Round 3 is now complete. Florida State and Washington, each with 6 players. Tennessee has 5. Some guys who are still out there. Another player in the SEC, Michael Myers, at times a dominator as a defensive lineman, but a guy who had some eligibility issues this year. And also Alonzo Mays, the tight end out of Oklahoma State, who had the positive test for marijuana at the Combine at Indianapolis, but had that not happened, certainly has top 3-round ability. Round 4 begins tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. We are back with more. A visit with Don Capers as our draft coverage continues on ESPN2 this evening. We'll recap and take a look at who made out best on day 1.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Guys like me don't get much respect. I mean, I'm not even in a cereal box. But, man, I could care less.
Triple Play 99. EA Sports. It's in the game.
You know, the real me is pretty basic. I'm even a little practical. Like a while back, I noticed I had some flakes. So naturally, I started using Head & Shoulders. It helps keep the flakes away. And if it leaves my hair looking like this, why mess with a good thing?
You know, I thought every deodorant worked the same. Till I tried longer-lasting, high-endurance from Old Spice. Nothing stronger at stopping odor longer. If you do this, or this, you're gonna sweat. But high endurance will help you stop odor better than any other deodorant. It has a 24-hour formula that evaporates less quickly, so it lasts longer. Guaranteed. Or call 1-800-PROVE-IT, and they'll buy you a stick of yours. Take the challenge. Because this is more than the best deodorant. It's the high endurance of deodorants. And give this Pure Sports scent a shot.
NHL
NFL tonight, Tuesday through Saturday at 11:30, only on ESPN2.
This ESPN News presentation of the 1998 NFL Draft is brought to you by Polaroid. See what develops. And by TWA. At TWA, we're working to win your next flight with every flight. We want to be your airline.
We are back in New York, still wrapping up day one of activity. And we'll go a little while longer, talk a little football. Carolina, no question what they were headed after. Jason Peter in the first round, defensive tackle Nebraska. Then the very first pick in the third round, defensive tackle LSU Chuck Wiley. And then from the Ivy Leagues, you know, this is a soft spot for yours truly, Mitch Marrow from Pennsylvania. And now let's bring in the man that helped pull the trigger on those picks, Dom Capers. Video conference. Let's go down to Charlotte and join the head coach of the Carolina Panthers. And Dom, again, thanks for joining us. And no question where you were headed today. My goodness. And in case you don't get one right, I mean, you're going to fill needs by going all defensive line. Was that the plan going in, or these guys just fell there for you?
Well, Chris, that was the plan going in. We felt that the biggest area of need on our defense was to upgrade our front seven. We feel that defensive linemen are hard to come by, and we couldn't feel better about coming out of the first day with 3 defensive linemen.
Don, this is Joe. Kerry Collins had a tough year last year, struggled a bit off the field and on the field. As you have sat down and assessed Kerry through his camps, through his off-season program, is he a different quarterback coming in for you this year?
Kerry and I have had a number of outstanding meetings since he came back off an extended vacation. I think he's excited going into his 4th year. He's certainly a guy that we threw in there that first year, and he's learned a lot, I believe, over the first 3 years. And our hopes is that he can take those first 3 years and learn from those, both the good and the bad, and use that to put together his best year here going into his 4th year.
A guy that's come back home, you know, there's that old saying, you can never go home again. Well, Kevin Green seemed like he wanted to come home. How much did you really miss him last year, and the holdout with him bother your football team? And the second question is, how much will he bring to the ball club coming back?
Well, Kevin Green certainly brought a lot to our football team 2 years ago, not only on the field, but in the locker room. He's kind of a throwback. He loves to play the game. He has a sense of passion about the game that's somewhat infectious and has a great effect on the rest of your team. So I think that our team's excited about having him back, and we certainly are as a coaching staff.
Tom, let me go to Sean Gilbert. Speaking of defensive linemen, where does this stand right now? It looks like you and the Redskins have kind of dug in trenches like it's World War I. How will this, and when do you anticipate this getting resolved?
Well, Chris, we anticipate on early next week of putting an offer sheet on Sean Gilbert, which would involve giving up our #1 pick the next 2 years. We made a deal a couple days ago, giving the Dolphins our 43rd pick today for their first pick in the year 2000. And we did that in mind of doing an offer sheet on Sean Gilbert, and we hope that takes place and everything goes smoothly with it.
You and Bill Polian were together side by side in the war room here for the initial years here, the Carolina Panthers, a year or two of which you guys got to the NFC Championship game. You made a draft without Bill, although maybe you didn't, because your Chuck Wiley pick was for Bill Polian. So maybe he's still in the room somewhere, huh?
Well, we were sure glad that we had that 61st pick today, and we were able to get a player that we kind of had targeted. We were able to watch Chuck Wiley and see him do a lot of the things that we would ask him to do in our defense.
Well, people are excited for football down there, and my goodness, you've certainly stockpiled the defensive line. Let me take a guess. Tomorrow, you may look somewhere else. Am I okay with that guess?
Well, we have a couple other positions that we need to address, and on both sides of the ball, really. So we've got to go back in, kind of reorganize, and take a look at that draft board heading into tomorrow.
All right, Tom, thank you very much, and we appreciate you joining us. Good luck tomorrow.
Thank you, Chris. It's always a pleasure.
Tom Capers. Yep, thank you. Tom Capers, coach of Carolina. Let's whip around the league and start with where it began. Indianapolis, Peyton Manning, Mark Malone. Mark?
Chris, the first headline here in Indianapolis was it's Peyton's place, but after the second and third round draft picks, might as well be Air Mora. They went in the second round with Jerome Pathon, a wide receiver from Washington. In the third round, the extraordinary, great route-running wide receiver from Florida State, E.G. Green. Now, in round 4 through 7, look for the Indianapolis Colts to go in other areas of need, namely the secondary, linebacker, and inside on the offensive line. Now let's go see Mike Golick out west.
Here in Arizona, the Cardinals score big with everything defensive end Andre Wadsworth. 2 picks early in the second round, filling some needs. Cornerback Corey Chavis will move to safety, and big offensive lineman Anthony Clement will help solidify that offensive line. Here we see Vince Tobin in the war room checking out the board for tomorrow. On tap, one of the most important things, depth at outside linebacker. Let's head over to Chris Myers.
Here in Dallas, despite needing help at wide receiver, the Cowboys passed on Randy Moss. They really never intended to draft him. Going after Greg Ellis, North Carolina's all-time sack leader. They expect him to start instantly and help on the defensive line. Also picking up offensive tackle Flozell Adams with their second pick, 6'7" out of Michigan State. He can play either left or right tackle. And in the war room, Chan Gailey and Jerry Jones scanning over their 7 selections on Sunday. Right now, let's head to Andrea Kramer.
Here in Jacksonville, Tom Coughlin had 2 first-round picks. He used them on Fred Taylor from Florida, the running back, and safety Donovan Darius from Syracuse. In the second round, he took cornerback Cordell Teller from Hampton. In the third round, he thinks he got a steal in quarterback Jonathan Quinn from Middle Tennessee. Coughlin said he thinks he would have been snapped up first thing on day 2 when teams regrouped and saw he was still on the board. What's next tomorrow? Size on the offensive and defensive line, speed at wide receiver, and a fullback who's primarily a blocker. Right now, let's go to Solomon Wilcott.
In Cincinnati, the Bengals used 4 of their 5 picks in day 1 of the draft. To go strong on the defensive side of the ball, they take 3 linebackers in the top half of the draft. Tomorrow, as they look ahead to day 2, they would look to make the offensive coaches very happy where wide receivers are in abundance. Now let's send it out to Sal Paolantonio.
Here in New England, the Patriots think they've got a shopping cart full of groceries, and they think they got a top-shelf running back in Robert Edwards of Georgia, who could be the heir apparent to Curtis Martin. They also added depth in their defensive backfield, the defensive line, fullback and wide receiver. Pete Carroll and Bob Kraft conferring now over their 4 picks that they will have on Sunday. Now let's go to Chris Mortensen.
Well, no surprise here in Miami because Jimmy Johnson started the day with 8 picks. He now has 11 overall, including 5 made today. His first 3 picks, starting with John Avery, a running back from Ole Miss. His first 3 picks, John Avery, Pat Surtain, and Kenny Mixon, all had first-round grades from the Dolphins. Never met a man more confident on draft day than Jimmy Johnson. He says all 5 players he picked have great upside. Now let's go to Hank Goldberg.
Bonnie Holiday, a defensive lineman, was the first pick for Green Bay. They moved up to the 19th spot to get him, and then they waited 71 picks to take Jonathan Brown, a defensive lineman. They were 2 for 2 on defensive linemen. Tomorrow they'll probably fill some defensive secondary needs, and Mike Holmgren told me he always takes a quarterback someplace in the draft. Let's go back to New York and Boomer.
All right, Hank and gang, thank you very much. A day that pretty much went to form, especially at the top. 2 quarterbacks we knew about, 3 that we didn't know about.
Actually, 4 counting Scott Frost. Right. And, you know, when you look at Jonathan Quinn, I think there's a possibility he may wind up as a tight end for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Maybe not at the maybe not stay at the quarterback position. But I was a little bit surprised that many guys were drafted from the quarterback position.
Well, tomorrow, Joe, you have Oz Hakeem, wide receiver, San Diego State, and 2 high-profile North Carolina defensive players, Robert Williams, cornerback, Kay Mays, middle linebacker.
You know what the big news is? This draft went a lot faster than we thought. Eric Clapton is playing upstairs here.
We're going to go catch him.
We're going to get there in time to hear Layla. It's the highlight of the day. We hope you enjoyed our coverage of the first 3 rounds of the NFL draft. It's, I can't tell you all the people that worked so hard to put this show together. Join Mike and the gang tomorrow at 11 a.m. on ESPN. So long.
For nearly 3 decades, the Super Bowl has been a larger-than-life spectacle dominated by pro football's greatest teams and greatest players. Everything about this ultimate contest is imposing. And the intensity of this event is magnified not only by the millions who are watching, but more importantly, by what is at stake.
We busted our ass. We've worked harder than anybody to get here. Nobody can beat us in a team, and it's worth $70,000 and a big ring.
Many have competed in Pro Football Showcase events, but only a few played their best on Super Sunday. In celebration of the Super Bowl's 30th anniversary, an all-time team of 26